I'm Amber Davies, and this is your 5-minute call. This is the space where musical theatre takes centre stage. From unforgettable backstage stories with incredible special guests to insights from my life and my theatre journey. We're leaving it all on the mic every single week, so let's jump in. Hi guys, I can't believe that this is happening. A musical theatre podcast. I feel so grateful and excited to be here. I really just wanted to create, a healthy space for the theatre community to have good, challenging conversations about our industry that we all absolutely adore. We have some amazing guests joining us, but as for today, I'm just gonna kind of recap my story from the beginning and give an insight really on where it all started for me and the Love Island experience and my West End debut and how it all happened. So I was actually introduced to singing, dancing, acting from a very young age. My mum used to do ballet lessons when she was little, and she actually sent my sister and I to that same dance school. And I just fell in love with it, really. It was a hobby for many years, and then it was, I have a lot to thank really to my sister, Jade, shout out Jade Davies, who... she was unbelievable at singing, acting. She was in many different shows, like theatre community shows. And I genuinely just followed in her footsteps because she was and she still is my biggest role model. Jade took off at 16 to London to start her training. She did a pre-voc at Bird and then did her 3 years at Erdang when she was 17. And I followed in her footsteps. I started going to London once a month at the age of 13 to do Erdang's Youth Academy, which was a huge commitment. And as soon as I made that decision of going 100 miles per hour for this industry, I knew, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. But like I said, I do owe everything to my sister, really, because she made the path for me. I literally just followed her. I'll always be so grateful and in debt to her. I started my 3-year diploma at the Erdang Academy in Angel Islington at 16, and I absolutely loved it. And we can definitely dive into, training and different colleges down the line on different podcasts. So any questions that you have, please ask them and we will definitely get round to them. And then I graduated at 19 and I looked so young. I was auditioning for everything, really. I was in the finals for loads of different shows that was in the West End at that time, which was 2016, and I just wasn't getting anything because I looked so young. I then got offered to be a lead singer on a cruise for 6 months, and I took the opportunity because it was traveling the USA and the Caribbean, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to see that part of the world like this, so why not make the money, experience life? And that's exactly what I did. Now, when I came off that cruise, that is when Love Island took off. I got approached on social media. I had nothing else going for me at that time. And I just thought, why not? It was, at that point in my life, I feel like I was so naive. I was 19 years old. I was just there for the fun, really. I had no intentions of winning the show. And I'm a sucker for love, and I am. I wear that. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I just thought, do you know what? I've got nothing to lose. Let's do it. And it was the best summer of my life. I don't regret it for a single second. I then came out, and for a year I was living that reality lifestyle, but I just had a hole missing in my life. Musical theatre had been my constant since a very young age, and I felt like something was missing. And I remember having a conversation with my agent saying, I'm ready now. I want to get back into it. And I went to my 9 to 5 audition, and ATG, shout out to Richard Darbourne and Adam Spears, they literally gave me the golden ticket and hired me as Judy Burnley. That was in 2018. It was definitely one to start off with, considering we actually had Dolly Parton as our exec producer. So I got to fly out to Nashville and meet her, which is like now a pinch me moment. You know, when I actually think Dolly Parton knows my name is absolutely wild. And I had the best year of my life there. You know, it was massive wake-up call for me. 8 shows a week is not for the weak. It's a huge commitment, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I just knew, I think I knew even halfway through rehearsals, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Even the whole aspect of being a part of a cast. I am a people person. I love spending time socializing with people, especially if we're like-minded, and I love that family feel. So I just feel so at home when it comes to being a part of a team and a cast and a production. Oh, and then we got hit by the pandemic, and I feel really lucky and grateful because I'd booked Campbell Davies, which is the lead girl in Bring It On, pre-pandemic, and I kind of had that role waiting for me at the end of COVID, and my stars really fell in line there because I had a goal and I had something to reach for and keep me going throughout the whole of the pandemic. And I genuinely know how lucky I was to be in that position because many of performers weren't. Like, you know, it just hit our industry so hard. So I count my blessings all the time that I got put in that situation. I then did Bring It On, and that was like a different kettle of fish altogether because it had the whole cheerleading element added to it. But I loved it. I really did. It was a challenge. I love to learn. I love to challenge myself and learn new skills. So that was, you know, that really boosted me and put fire in my belly. But we actually got cancelled early, 9 months early, which felt like worse than any heartbreak I've ever experienced. I think I cried more about that finishing than I ever did with any breakup in my life, which says a lot about me, really. I had a little bit of a quiet time after that, really, because I was just thrown back into audition season. And if you're a musical theatre performer, you know how intense those few months are. I think there was 3 different roles I was in for, and I was just learning material for all 3. And I was going from one audition, running to the other, having to switch characters. And it was like dog eat dog at that point because we'd just basically come out of the pandemic and everybody wanted a job. And that's when I landed the role of Lorraine Baines in Back to the Future, which changed my life in so many ways. It was, I'd say, probably one of the best years of my life. Just the company as a whole just fit like a glove. It was like one of the best jigsaws as a cast that had been put together. And of course, I met my boyfriend, Ben Joyce, who's just an absolute darling, and he's my number 1 fan. And I kind of always vouched that I'd never date somebody in the industry, but it works, guys. It really does work. And we are each other's support system. And I feel so lucky that I've got him in my life. But this is a musical theatre podcast, not a Who Am I Dating podcast. And then I decided, it was a really awkward kind of conversation I had to have with myself. Did I want to stay as Lorraine for another year? Or did I want to kind of take the gamble and look for another role? I actually hadn't booked anything when I left Back to the Future. I just thought, you know what, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. I'm just going to take the risk. And then I went in for Vivian Ward. Now, Vivian was for a UK tour. And I was umming and ahhing about a UK tour because 8 shows a week is tough in itself, but 8 shows a week on tour is like a different kettle of fish. But you know what? When I was going in for Vivian and I was learning the material and I was singing the songs, I was so emotionally invested in getting that role. I just went for it 110%. I thought, I really want to get this, and I got it. And I think I'd probably say she's the most challenging role I've had to play so far. I've learned so much about myself, my voice, my mental stability. I just think I'm the right age to be playing her, because I actually went in for her for the original West End lead, which the amazing Amy Atkinson got and fully deserved. She was absolutely phenomenal. And I always think to myself now, God, if I'd have got the Vivian at the age of 22, I think it actually would have broke me, because it's such a big sing and it's such a big role. Now I feel like I'm so ready and I'm there and I've had enough experience. So yeah, that in short is where I'm at in my life. I feel so grateful. I still have so much to learn, and that's what I love about this podcast. We'll be having guests coming on. We can ask all the questions and just learn and grow with each other, because it's a hard industry. It's a real hard industry, mentally and physically. And I think there's one thing that everybody knows, is that our community, we have each other's backs, and I think we're like 1 in a million when it comes to supporting each other. And so I just wanted to create this space really to be open, honest and genuine and no filter. So what we did is we put something out on our Instagram to ask you guys, what are the questions that you want answers to? And so what I'm going to do is just answer a few for you today. And this is just, I want to, disclaimer, this is just my opinion. Everybody thinks differently. Everybody acts differently. Like, for example, I really, really, really suffer with nerves, but I'm sure I'll have a guest on at some point who doesn't have any nerves. It depends on who you are as a person, and I will just answer honestly and to my best ability. I don't know everything. I've learned a lot over the years. So yeah, I'm just going to be open and honest. Now it's time for a quick interval. Go and powder your noses, and we'll see you in 2. Hello and welcome back. Okay, first question is, how do you handle nerves, especially in auditions? This question jumped out to me because, guys, when I tell you, I am terrible when it comes to nerves. I'm a terrible auditionee as well. I feel like a vulnerable graduate all over again, especially when I walk into the room. Even though I've been on the West End, I've done a UK tour, I still feel like a vulnerable graduate going in. I'm not even joking. If I have an audition, I won't sleep for about a week before it, because I'm just overanalyzing. I mean, I have got much better with age and with experience, but it does still get the better of me. So what I do when it comes to auditions is I literally just try and be myself. When I walk in, I want them to feel like I'm their equal and I'm not just like meek and scared to be there. Like, I try and own it as much as I possibly can. And I know people have a preference. Do you want to sing first? Do you want to do the scenes first? I will always request to do the scenes first, because it will get me into character and it will just take the nerves away slightly. I also have a really bad habit of just talking at 100 miles an hour when I walk into an audition room, because I'm just like, oh my God, even if I don't sing well, maybe I'll win them over with my chat. I don't know why I go there, but I go there. And I always think, I'm going to try and make them laugh. But I feel like everyone tries to do that when they walk into an audition. It's like, I'm not auditioning for a comedy act, I'm auditioning for like Lorraine Baines. What I try and do, I think with experience is my breathing. I just deep breath and just think, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. I'm a firm believer that what's meant for you won't pass you by. And I've really stuck to that, because there's been times where I haven't booked jobs and I've really let it get the better of me. And then next thing you know, something's come up which pays twice as more and it's a longer contract. And you think, that's why I didn't get that job, because this other thing was actually waiting for me. And I know sometimes it's really hard to stay in that, like, it's so hard to put yourself in that mindset when it's all going on. But if you can just mentally basically convince yourself that something better's coming, it will come. I promise you that. Next question is, what is your favourite role that you've ever played? This is a really difficult one for me, because the roles that I've played have been completely different. And they've challenged me in ways that the other one can't. For me, I'd probably say Vivian Ward is the most rewarding role, because I don't leave the stage for literally 2.5 hours, apart from the interval. Physically, it's intense. Vocally, it's pushed me to a different limit. And I kind of like that, you know. I'm never comfortable in Viv. I'm always building and making her better. And I like that I'm growing as the contract's going along. So I'd probably say Vivian Ward. I mean, she was on my dream role list when I was younger. So, you know, to tick that off has been, you know, I'm really, really grateful to be doing that. Okay, this next question is more about the intensity of an 8-show week, because, like I said before, it really isn't for the weak. And the question is, how many days off do you get in a week? Every contract I've ever done, I have only had 1 day off a week. Now, there are times when it's tough and you just want that 2-day weekend, because by the time that you have that 1 day and you relax, you've kind of got to get back on that treadmill again. But you do get into the swing of it really, really quickly. And it just becomes your new normal. You just have to make sure you really do look after yourself. And a tip, this is a top tip, if you're about to go into a contract, you really need to be clever in how you request your holidays, where you put them during your, let's say, year contract, because that will really help you in the long run. I always kind of do a checklist of, okay, I'm going to do 2.5 months and then I'll take a 10-day holiday, and it'll be like a checkpoint for me. And that's how I work. And I always go into booking my holidays logically, so it breaks up the year, and then you just enjoy it a lot more. And we do get run down and you do have to take shows off, but if you can find a good routine and get those checkpoints, I really do find it actually does go a long way. Next question is, how did you find an agent? So I trained at Erdang. I started when I was 16 and I graduated when I was 19. In my 3rd year show, I actually did Campbell, and we did Bring It On, which is crazy because then I actually went to play her professionally. With your 3rd year shows, especially at Erdang, and I think it works very similarly across the board when it comes to musical theatre schools. We had agents invited and they watched us, and then you basically have a meeting with them after. And Curtis Brown came, watched the show, and I had a meeting with them and they picked me up, and they've literally represented me since I've been 19 years old. So we're coming up to 10 years of representation, and they literally deserve a medal. So I just want to say, big thank you to Alistair, Helen, Emma. They're my team over at Curtis Brown, and they have just been the most incredible support for me, especially after Love Island, and they've just believed in me since day one. So I've been very lucky. But honestly, guys, when it comes to agents, it's like finding a therapist. You just got to find an agency that works for you, that works with your style, that works with what shows do you want to go for, what characters do you want to play, do you want to do more television, do you want to do more plays? You know, there's so many incredible agencies out there. You just have to find the one that's right for you. Oh, this is a really interesting question, which I want to answer because I feel like it's a biggie. And that is, how do you deal with coming to the end of a contract and not having anything else lined up? Now, my motto in life is life starts at the end of your comfort zone. Now, for example, I could have stayed as Lorraine Baines in Back to the Future for, let's say, another year. So I would have done a 2-year contract, could have stayed in it for another year after that, 3 years. But I kind of made a deal with myself when I graduated that I wouldn't do a contract for longer than a year because I want to experience as many roles as I possibly can. So that's the deal that I made with myself. So when I left Back to the Future, I had no job lined up and I just thought, right, I'm ready to go back into audition season and, you know, may the best man win, basically. I just think once you've experienced something and you want to move on and you want to grow, like take that risk. And embrace it. I know I had a friend the other day, she's just come out of Mamma Mia, and she said, you know, I'm going back to the cafe and I've got my evenings back. And I just said, babe, enjoy your evenings because in 6 months' time, you will no doubt be doing another year contract and doing 8 shows a week, and you will wish that you embraced the downtime rather than panicking and worrying. I always find it unproductive when you get yourself into a bit of a rut in between jobs, because when you do end up booking another job, you're going to wish that you embraced that downtime a little bit more. And it's literally just about trusting the process. Even if it takes you a year, 2 years to get your next role, you're still working on yourself, you're still bettering yourself, you're experiencing things. I always say take the risk, you know, unless you're like, I absolutely love being in this ensemble, I absolutely love being a swing in this show, I want to do it for another year, then go for it. You know, I think it all depends on what situation you're in and what's right for you. But if you can just lean into the break a little bit more and embrace it and feel comfortable being in an uncomfortable situation, that is when you're going to grow the most. Thank you so much for listening. We have an incredible guest for the next episode and you're all gonna love her. There we go. I've given you a hint. It's a she. Thank you so much and I'll see you next time.